Hey, how you doing? Coming to you live and direct, Them Brothers from Inglewood podcast once again. I'm Hoopie. Charley Mack is not in the studio today, but he'll be in this week with some more interesting topics and some great content. Before I introduce today's topic, I want to say thanks to the Coalesce Group, all that you're doing in the academic community. Thank you for inspiring young, daring dreamers to go after their goals and to obtain them. I thank you so much for allowing us to partner with you, and to be a part of this great community is just an awesome thing. Thanks to Fruit Off the Vine Clothing Apparel for all that you're doing to inspire young girls and women to be confident in themselves, to understand that everyone is a little bit different, unique in their own way. And thank you so much for uplifting our young people and inspiring our young women. And so, without further ado, I just want to say thanks for allowing us to come into your cars, into your home, into your office, wherever you're viewing this podcast and listening. We want to say thank you. We don't take it for granted nor lightly that you would pay attention to some of the content that we are trying to share on this platform. We want to say that if you be so kind to like, share, and subscribe, we'll be most appreciative as it relates to gaining exposure, but also learning what type of content that you're looking for. It helps us to develop concepts and gather information to present to you. It's a very, very challenging time that we're living in, and so many different things are happening. And I was really thinking about this for weeks. You know, I didn't know how I was going to really attack this subject, but I really feel that today is the day that I want to talk about it. This topic is relatable, it's relevant, and it's very important that we have this dialogue. And we need to have more dialogue, not just today, but we need to continue in this vein and encourage one another, because we just never know what we're actually dealing with. So today's topic is coping with anxiety. Coping with anxiety. Now, I know that this is a pretty delicate and sensitive subject. Why? Because there are a lot of people who deal with anxiety on a whole different level. We know and understand that there are many aspects of anxiety. It comes out externally in ways that are not always positive. It's not always convenient. It's not always, how should I put it? It's not always tactful, the way that it comes out. But I think that it's deeper than what the eye beholds, simply because you just never know anyone's story. And then there are situations where it's chemical imbalances. You got people that are really dealing with some tough issues. And so I just kind of I don't want to try to get into the clinical aspect of it. Number one, I'm just not qualified to talk in depth pertaining to the clinical aspect of it. However, I can speak to the experience and the surface that I personally have dealt with, and I've seen, and I've been around this type of community, and I've been around these type of individuals. I myself have experienced a lot of anxiety. I'm writing a book. It's pretty much finished. We're just doing a bunch of editing, and hopefully when this material comes out, you'll find it very interesting, but also you'll learn from it, because we all have a different experience. However, there's nothing new under the sun. And so I'm going to reference, the Bible, a few times here in this discussion simply because that's something that I chose to govern my life with, and I look to the Lord, to help me in all facets of my life. And I know everybody is different. Some people are non-religious. Some people are, pretty much dealing with, their lives and their situations in their own way. But I just want to say a few things about the types of anxiety that we experience. And then I'll go into a more personal aspect of what my experiences are. But we know that there's anxiety in the way of depression, overthinking. There are anxieties that students experience, especially student athletes. Not only do you have to perform in the classroom, but you have to perform on the perspective court, field, whatever it is you're doing, you have to maintain in both of those areas. And sometimes it gets very, very demanding. And then there is an aspect of anxiety disorders. You've seen so many, variants from, COVID-19 experience and how that has affected our economic system, how it's affected us personally, how it has affected us, emotionally, mentally, physically, and even spiritually. And I really believe that if we talk more and have a communicative, outlet, I believe that we can help each other. I believe that we can find answers. I believe that counsel, therapy, rehabilitation, I really believe that these are fundamental approaches to success. And I believe that, if some of our situations are more severe than others, then we can get clinical help. We can get, professional help. We can get, doctors to sit down with us and to explain some of the things that we may be experiencing. I know that depression is a huge misdiagnosed symptom. It's real. Depression is real. Depression creeps up on us. Depression will cause many of us to be in denial. Depression has many faces, and a lot of times we're not willing to admit, or sometimes we don't see it in the way of depression. We call it every other thing but what it is. And today, hopefully, I can just share one or two experiences of my own that will encourage you and help you understand that it's okay to talk. It's okay to reach out. There's another spin on the communication part, because it has to be a sense of trust, confidence. Many people aren't talking. Many people find themselves alone, and they experience a feeling of abandonment because they don't feel like they have anybody to talk to. A lot of situations when you read about suicide and you read about levels of depression that leads to suicide, and discussions on suicide and having suicidal thoughts. A lot of it has everything to do with not feeling as though you have someone to talk to, that they'll understand or that they'll hear you without judging you. And more importantly, that they won't go out and tell your business. They won't just go and put your name on the highway. They won't call you names and just describe you with negative connotations and things of that nature. So we have to understand that it's a more serious problem than we're willing to admit. Um, there is another disorder that we only not everyone, but it seems like we only use this term pertaining to those that are in the military or was in the military, and it's that PTSD syndrome. That's real, but you don't have to be in the military just to experience PTSD. There are so many post-traumatic experiences that we have in our youth, in our adolescence, in our adulthood. There are so many things that can traumatize us that we'll carry in our subconscious and that we'll deal with for years and years to come. And a lot of times we don't even know it as PTSD. We have these problems, these issues, and we don't know how to get out from under them. We don't know how to get out of the way of them. We don't know how to deal with them successfully. And so I'm hoping that someone is listening so that they can come off the ledge, that they won't jump off that cliff. They won't jump off that building. They won't drive their car over the hill, over the mountain, that they won't crash and burn. And a lot of times we just don't know how to reach resolve, resolution. We don't know how to get victory in this area of depression. I could go a little bit deeper from a spiritual standpoint and really depict the demonizing aspect and characteristic of depression, because it's not of God. It doesn't come from God. It's a form of torment that comes from the enemy. It comes from the devil. It comes from Satan. It comes from darkness, the spiritual aspect of darkness. It comes to bind us up, to hold us hostage. It's a level of torment that many of us have experienced, and we probably haven't described it as torment, but it feels that way. And I'm going to give you one scenario which is real, because I experienced it way back in my youth when I was a young boy, developing along with my brothers. I grew up with 3 brothers, 1 younger, 2 older, and we had great experiences, and we have a great relationship. But we were individuals. We all had our lives to live. We all had to find our way. And a lot of things that I was dealing with in my youth had really nothing to do with my brothers. I love my brothers. I had great relationships at that time. With my siblings. My baby brother, rest in peace. Christopher was, very close to me. I considered him, without question, my best friend. Of course, my older brothers were my best friend as well, but I spent a lot of time, quality time, with my baby brother, and our relationship was just really, really great. It was enormous. It was almost like he could, repeat, or he could say words that I was about to say. I mean, we were just really, like 2 peas in a pot. I mean, we really clicked. Our birthdays were a couple of days apart, even though I was 3 years older than him. But I say that to say that he became a conduit. He was a confidant for me. He was an outlet. And the things that I experienced in my youth were, it was just tough, And I say that because I had a temper. I had an issue with anxiety. I didn't know how to process it at the time. I act out in a way not disrespectful to adults, never being disrespectful to my peers, but I just have this temper to where I would go from 1 to 9, or 1 to 8, and in no time. And it could be some of the smallest things, and I would find myself just being angry and wanting to fight. And a lot of times I did fight. I fought quite a bit in my youth, and it was crazy because as much as I fought, I never wanted to be a boxer. I never wanted to be a professional prize fighter or anything. But I did enjoy fighting. I fought a lot, and I didn't start a lot of trouble, but I didn't back down from trouble. If trouble really came my way, I was with it, and I'm not proud of that because it got me in a lot of trouble. I got suspended quite a bit. I got labeled quite a bit. Matter of fact, I was reading something on Facebook. And a dear friend of mine, childhood friend of mine, I've been knowing him since I was 10 years old. And I was reading one of his posts, and it was very funny, and it was very innocent. And he labeled me as the bully on the bus. And I was like, wow, he probably remembers, that I was aggressive, that, I was willing, to fight, or I was, willing to, go to that next level, through confrontation. And it's not something that I'm proud of, but it is something that I can relate to, and I'm willing to share with others to help them understand where this all is coming from. And that's my whole point. I want to get to the point of sharing where this anxiety comes from. I had a phobia, I believe I had a form of insecurity. There was things about me physically that I wasn't totally pleased with. And it's crazy because I always felt like I was this confident guy, but growing up, I realized that I really did have insecurities. I bought into some of the things that were said and spoken about me and pertaining to me. And I didn't know how to process that because I thought, it was a level of disrespect. And, where we're from and how we grew up, respect was everything. If you didn't have respect, that bully would come and he would take your coin every day, as long as he could, until you stood up to him or her. But I say that to say that I was processing this anxiety that was on the inside, stemming from what I perceived as insecurity. People calling me names, people depicting me in a way that was negative. People, kids are cruel. We can be cruel. And so, the name calling and playing the dozens. I was a good sport when it came to that. I think if something really hit me the wrong way, I responded like a poor sport. So if I felt it was too personal, then it was on. It was something that I had to have a conversation about. But to say the least, I believe my insecurities stemmed from what I was not experiencing, as a kid in his immediate family. I'm from a broken home, which was full of love. I mean, I tell you, I have no regrets. I have no qualms. My mom is everything to me. My mom is my hero. My mom has always been there for me and my brothers. My mom has always been communicative. And my mom has always been supportive. No matter what I went through, what I did wrong, my mom, it was one thing my mom just did not tolerate. She did not tolerate lying. You could not lie to my mom. and expect her to respect that. She did not play when it came to that. She don't play when it comes to that now. She does not appreciate lying. And my mom is not perfect, but my mom is not a liar. I know that by experience, and I've seen her walk this out in her life. But I was dealing with not having my biological father in the home anymore, and I think I was processing this from the window of insecurity. I saw other friends who fathers were with them. They were bringing them to the games. They were, being supportive. They were taking them to activities and having fun with them. And I think deep down, I resented that. I envied that. That was something that was huge to me. Even though my grandfathers were very active in my life and along with my siblings, I spent a lot of time with both of my grandparents. And that's the weird part, because my father's father was a huge part of my development and my upbringing. And there was some inconsistencies there, but he was there. And then later on in life, I realized why my biological father was not in my life due to so many other aspects that really hindered him. Not to make excuses for him, but there were other dependencies, chemical dependencies that he was troubled with, and it just took him clearly out of the loop. But I never stopped loving my dad. I never stopped, wanting to see my dad. I never looked at my dad in a negative way, even though I knew that he had not been physically in our lives the way that I wanted him to. So I used a lot of my insecurities about not having that, how can I put it? Not having the stability in the home that constitutes a husband, a wife, a mother, a father, that heads that household. I think I just kind of looked for other ways to find that, that security, or to fill that void. So my anxiety was not an excuse, but it actually drove me to making poor decisions. I didn't have to exercise a bad temper. I grew up in the church. I knew right from wrong. Yeah, I'm a kid. I'm not perfect. I don't know it all. But for some reason, I just could not get my attitude and my temper under control. I mean, it affected me in so many ways, even as a student athlete. I mean, I would get rattled because I would take a portion of the contest personal. I would get upset, and next thing I know, I'm playing angry, but not in a good way. I listen to the commentators now, and they talk about some of the great athletes who play angry, which to me, it's more of a controlled anger, and it's positive. I just couldn't play angry. I mean, excuse me, I just really couldn't. I couldn't talk and chirp and I couldn't play that way and be successful. And so only a few guys really knew how to push my buttons, because I was considered a decent athlete. I could compete. I was, somewhat talented. But only a few guys knew how to get me off of my game. They knew what to say. They knew what to do just to get me out of sync. And if they could get me out of sync, that was less concern for their team as well as them individually. And there was only a couple of guys that could do that. One guy, Marvin Nelson, dear friend of mine, great competitor, he was one of the guys that knew how to push my button. And he always played better than I did when we played against each other. I felt that I was, the talent. I felt I was the athlete. But he always got the better of those contests all the time. And I'm not ashamed to say that. I just know that a lot of times it was my anxiety. It was my lack of discipline. Because I believe that a lot of things that we get into is a lack of knowledge, but also a lack of discipline. And sometimes we don't know how to get in front of that thing. We don't know how to control it. And my temper would get the best of me. A lot of times I would make silly fouls. I would do things on the gridiron. I played football as well, so sometimes I would not think clear enough to make the right play, or sometimes I might drop the ball, or I didn't drop the ball very much, but it was just those things. If I didn't control my emotions, my temperament, my attitude, it would just throw me off. And so I didn't mean to get off on a tangent, but what I'm saying is a lot of my anxiety began in my youth. I didn't know how to process it. I didn't know how to go to anyone and talk to them about solutions. Yes, my mother knew about my temper. My brothers knew about my temper. And it was crazy because I was really a quiet guy. I was really, not really willing to talk to everybody. I liked everybody. But I, a lot of times, I could actually be seen and not heard. I didn't have to, have the attention or anything like that. So a lot of times I just kept things to myself. I dealt with a lot of things in my youth that trickled over into my adult life. A lot of things I wanted to say about certain things, and I wouldn't say it. I would just kind of let it blow over and hope for the best. And a lot of times I suffered behind that. A lot of times it was agonizing. It was no resolve. I didn't get anything done, anything accomplished. And it was like that saying, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. And that was me for a long time. So I had all this built up anger. I think in my book I talk about a process of dealing with my frustrations and my anxieties, and how certain things help me grow from that and gain better focus on how to move forward in a positive way. Like I said before, I fought a lot. I talked back to other students. I questioned adults, whether it was my coaches or whether it was my educational instructors. I just always had something to say. I don't think I was sassy or sarcastic, but if I wanted to know pertaining to something that I felt wasn't just, I was going to say something. I was going to be that guy. And a lot of it stemmed from probably not having answers as a young person, and wanting answers, but didn't know how to ask, or a lot of times if I did speak on that subject, I didn't get the results. You're a young person, hey, this is grown folks business, you're a kid, so on and so on. So a lot of things were really not clear for me. So in that, how do we find resolve? How do we cope with our anxieties? What do we do? Is there an outlet? Is there help? Is there someone we can reach out to? Is there someone that we can talk to? Does it ever go away? Do we get better at it? Well, I believe we do get better at it. In the second grade, and I know this is a long time, I'm 54 years old, and you're like, oh, second grade. No, but I remember my teacher, Miss Carter. She used to help me with my temper. She used to help me, process, what was actually going on. Why was I angry? What angered me? When did I feel angry? How am I going to, calm myself down? So she really sent me through a series of helpful suggestions, I would say. As a kid, she would, and I know, this is not in our culture, but I know in other cultures, when a kid is disruptive or being disrespectful, first thing the parent starts doing is counting. And in our culture, we're not counting. Only thing we're going to count is how long you've been out. How many seconds you've been out because you've received a punch or some type of blow that sent you to the ground or doubled you over. But she helped me in this by teaching me how to face my fears, face my trouble head on in a courageous way. She taught me how to be courageous. She gave me some suggestions and tools that really helped me later in adolescence and in adulthood. And I'm still learning. I think what I do today is I hold my peace. I fast a great deal. I deny my flesh what it wants, which helps me develop discipline to speak louder than my anxiety, speak louder than the trouble that's brewing down on the inside of me. There's a passage of scripture in Psalm 23, verse number 4, and this is very familiar, but I also understand that the spiritual aspect of my development has really made totally the difference in my life. When I accepted the Lord Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior in my youth, and I began to understand it, because I didn't really understand it for a while. I mean, I was a kid. I grew up in the church, but I still didn't know the fundamental aspect of carrying out your belief, right? So I didn't know how to practice my belief system. I just knew the do's and the don'ts. I knew the legalism of it. And so it took time for me to really understand how to process everything. So when I think of Psalm 23, verse 4, it says, even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Well, that is the assurance that I get and that I receive, knowing that the higher power, the ultimate power, the supernatural power of God is at work in my life. That the Word of God is Jesus Christ represented through a book or in a book, and that Word will be present with me in all of my situations. And all I have to do is apply the Word, speak the Word from my own lips, and watch it manifest even in the few fleeting moments of my hostility, my anxiety, my frustration, my uncomfortableness, the inconvenience of it. But it allowed me to process what was happening in my life. And it takes time, it takes, maturity. I had to mature. I had to go from adolescence to adult life, and that was a tough process because I had to continue to deny myself. I had to deny my flesh. I had to deny the things that are going on. And I know that this is not the greatest feeling to have, anxiety, but we all have it. We have it when it's time to take exams. We have anxiety when it's time to get news from the doctor. Like the Bible says, whose report shall we believe? Well, we shall believe the report of the Lord. And so even when the doctors tell us something negative, something that we don't want to hear, it creates a level of anxiety. Why? Because we feel helpless. We feel obsolete. We don't feel that we're in control anymore. And that usually generates fear. The fear that comes over us develops in anxiety. You get anxiety, and so what I really suggest is that we start having more dialogue. Yes, there are more serious problems that stem from anxiety. Why it's there, how long it's been there, how do you get resolved. But there are therapists, there rehab, there is an outlet. A lot of times I drive to the beach, and at one time I drove for Uber for years, 5 years to be exact, and it was relaxing. It was also tedious. It was time consuming at one point, but it was refreshing because I was able to meet and talk with so many different people from all over the world, from Asia to South Africa to Central America, just different places that I had never been to. I read about, had heard about, so it was educational as well. So even though it became kind of tedious and anxiety did build up at times, it was an outlet. And so my suggestion to you is that you will find an outlet that you will share with someone. You can't share it with everybody. You cannot entrust your experiences and your vulnerability to everybody, but you have to find someone to talk about this level of anxiety that you're experiencing. Coping with anxiety is never easy, but you can be successful, just as I am. I've learned how to bite the bullet. I've learned how to swallow my pride. I've learned how to back up. I've learned how to stop talking, zip it, and allow that situation to play itself out. I've just learned how to take the low road, and sometimes you have to take the low road. And I just hope that I was helpful in my sharing today, because I really wanted to share many scripture on how we can process this real emotion. It's real. PTSD is real. People that are homeless, that we see on the streets, that might be talking to themselves, it might resemble schizophrenia, and we always assume that these people are on the streets because of mental illness. Yes, mental illness is real. Mental illness is in corporate America. Mental illness is every day on your job. Mental illness is in sports. It's in entertainment. We just saw the wonderful bronze medalist. She came back to compete and finish what she started, even though all week she's been, dealing with anxiety. She's been dealing with depression. She's been dealing with a lot of emotional issues. And I just want to say kudos to that young lady for having the courage to come back and finish what she started. And she medaled. She has 4 gold, 1 silver, and 2 bronze now. So she's actually tied with another young lady in the gymnastic, American Gymnastic Association, or at least in the Olympics. She's tied for having 7 medals along with this other young lady. And so I just want to say thank you for allowing me to share my heart. There's so many other things, and we're going to do a part 2 to this. As soon as Charlie Mack comes into the studio, we're going to do a part 2 to this episode so that we can really, really start to touch home. I also realized that there are some other personalities that are on social media that talks about various anxieties that we experience. I know I saw something on TED Talk, and it's something that we should continue to have conversation about. And so I want to say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for following us on this platform. Like, share, subscribe, and leave some comments in the area to where we can respond and we can reach out to you. I just want to say thanks. I miss my brother Charlie Mack. He's due to be back in the studio this week, and we'll have some more interesting content to share. So thank you so much. We'll see you again. This ride is over. As my brother would say, take your seat belts off. This car has come to a stop, and we'll see you again next time. Peace.